Okay, for the last 2 hours I've been doing my least favorite task, which is trying to organize this garage. So the heap of stuff that was behind over there has been cleared away, making space for the motorbike to come here, because the motorbike was over there, blocking my way to get to absolutely everything. And now that area is a disaster because I ran out of time, and there's a ton of stuff to sort of try and organize and get rid of, but at least I can get to that. And of course I found a number of little things, and we'll talk about the universal carrier shortly. So I found this one, which had been set aside, but a very, very nice little ship as well. Used in World War II as well, from what I gather. 400th, 40 centimeters long. Anyway, something different. A fair bit of detail. Not going to be worked on for a while, but just another addition to the collection of different types of ships that I've got. And I did read a little bit of the description, and it does say, well, it's sort of started service in 1936, so I can only imagine that it must have been doing service in World War II. So that's a nice one. Okay. I've been watching quite a number of videos on the universal carrier. No, I didn't bring the completed one here. Actually, I should have brought that one again. So my previous statement about doing the engine, opening the panel, which is this box over here, the engine box, opening that, and I said I'll put on tail lights. The reason I said I'll put on tail lights and not headlights is because mine didn't even have headlights, and I was looking at it and thinking, okay, well, it didn't have headlights. Actually it does. They're on the front fenders. This model just doesn't have them. So LED taillights and headlights is on the cards. Engine, and what I'd first been thinking of was just the top hatches on that sort of top part of the box. The engine isn't inside there, but that gives access to the top of the engine. The engine is sort of actually, well into the chassis. So most of the engine is below that part. But the fact that that is also a separate item means I can actually build the framework and not include that box at all, so that you can see from the top and the sides of that box. Now, building the engine, I saw pictures of that, a Ford V8, which is obviously not this Ford V8. This is a much later model, but they do have pictures of the Ford V8 as used in the universal carrier. This is just to sort of give me a little bit of a starting point, and I've got another one in 1/24th scale, of course, just to set my mind at reproducing this in, what would that end up being, 48th, 96, yes, less than, not quite a quarter of what that is right now. So it's not the worst of builds, actually, building a little quarter of this V8, quarter of that for the tiny little universal carrier. Not a difficult job at all. We'll see how we go on that, and I think that'll be a huge boost. But the area that I realized this thing could do with the most changes is the fact that that surface, all of that surface is much too high. There's a lot more, and that's why they provide that cut in half driver, is because that driver's seat there isn't even space. You know, the legs are supposed to go underneath here, so need to open up all of that. And while I'm about it, might as well rebuild, you know, because the engine needs to go in there. The engine goes, all of that open area underneath there covered by that piece. And I might build a thinner version of that so that I can use, this is not too bad, but with thinner sheet it gives me, so I need to maximize all that whole space. And that includes the back section for leg space and boxes and all of that. And that's the reason that is sort of so limited, and that Airfix molded it like that. I won't be doing anything to the running gear. That'll stay exactly as it is. Looks great. That will get redone, that front section. It'll get redone in thin plastic, because again, there's just so much stuff actually. When I started looking at the Universal Carrier, I realized there's so much detailing that you can do, actually an enormous amount. So in the driver's compartment, the gunner seated to the side of him, the engine area, and then the seat and all the various boxes and stuff there, gives a lot of scope, as well as even on the front of the thing, the lights and various little stowage. And where's that piece? The piece at the back, which has molded onto it. It's that tiny little piece there, that one with the tail lights actually, with the tools molded onto it. So that I need to scratch build a spade, a pick, and the handle to bring that to life. It's not flat detail as they have it there, and I in any case need to drill out for the lights. And that's quite an easy thing to get lights into there. Get the small LEDs into there, and that'll bring it to life. So there's actually quite a ton to do, and the use of various little metal etch bits will come very much in handy. And for that, various leftover bits that people have let go at the club can come in handy for this, even though they're not related to the kit whatsoever. Some photo etch sets, now I don't know if I'll use anything from this one, but all I really wanted to point out is that there's a lot of very interesting bits that you can find to, well, they look like some interesting things, to give little feature points, you know. Although I have to say that these ones are steel, and unless I perchance find things that are almost the same size, that is very difficult to work, as opposed to these. So there's a lot of interesting and odd little pieces that you can get off there. Even this brass is, it's not the thin brass. It's not like this one, which I just happened to put in here. Well, actually that one is. This is something I just found for the Vampire. So since I have those 1/48 Vampires, so I don't know how much, because, you know, this is not a quick cut with a knife to actually readjust parts, but that's what I'd like to be doing. I'd like to be finding various bits of, you know, like some of these very smallest little pieces there for little feature pieces on the universal carrier. That's sort of where I'm headed with this. So I guess the first thing is going to be to open that all up and then do a mock-up of the V8 to see how it can actually be arranged in there. You know, inevitably it's going to be, I'm going to have something that fits way worse than the actual V8 that was in there, and I may need to do a little bit of manipulation on the tiny V8, but that's the first thing. Open that entire thing up. Saw some video of them driving one around, listened to a lot of talk on it. Was actually produced in pretty huge numbers, surprisingly so, but a really awkward thing to get into the driver's position, and they say it was nice enough to drive, though personally I'm sure anyone would choose a Jeep or a Land Rover over this, but they say with its tracks it was more, it could do more terrain than a Jeep and a Land Rover, for instance. I need to figure out where the fuel tank is as well, because with that V8 and riding a 4-ton armored vehicle around, they must have had somewhat reasonable fuel tanks in that tiny little vehicle. And if not, then they must have had the tankers driving along just about all the time. This, by the way, now that I'm just, while I've got this one here, this one says the DH100 Vampire, 148th, and I'm wondering if this will fit into those Vampires that I have, the two kits. Give that a little bit of a spice up. I don't even know what some of this stuff is, but it's got the it's got that little instruction sheet there, so when I get to the Vampire, then I've got that. Okay, and now that I had a bit of gap, let's look at all these houses, or I should say buildings. Fire station, not a bad one. Many of these, or most of these, are actually, well, 3/4 of them are still in their plastic. I haven't even paid them much attention. That's interesting. A small freight station, that's a very nice little building. Now, one doesn't have to do it next to the rail. That could fit into almost anything. There's some of the others that they have. A gold refining place. This would obviously be more period than not, but again, that could easily be adapted, you know, with or without the chimney, to suit just about anything you want, to be honest. Oh, okay, a Mercedes car agency. Now, I certainly wouldn't build it as a Mercedes agency, but I do like that building with the glass front again, and one could just leave off that Mercedes sign and even possibly change that whole concrete structure in the front. This one's got that upper section which I was talking about that many buildings have, and I quite like that. So that's another one that could fit into the, it could fit into some theme next to the other building that we were talking about, with good lighting inside and something very interesting, something way more interesting than 3 toy cars inside there. Station. Now I'm sure that Chester Station is vastly bigger than that. I wonder what period that represents, unless it just happens to be called Chester Station but is not Chester's main station. Actually a lot of very nice buildings. Again, wouldn't build that as the bank. But have to give some thought as to what one could do alternatively with that one. Quite cool. It's a little restaurant. If they'd had these pictures in a bit of a nicer diorama, but I guess it came down to, you know, you have to show exactly what is for sale, because if someone buys it, you know, they went through that stage of what is displayed has to be exactly what you get. This one's a very nice one. So I think, yeah, the colors that they've shown it on there is exactly what's in the box. In fact, that's probably true for a couple of these models actually. So that even without any painting, you get a semi-reasonable look. And what is this? Water supply company. That I mean, that could be just about anything that you wanted it to be, and a very nice looking old building. So yeah, you know, for a change of topic, which I haven't done much of at all, buildings, it's not absolutely all. Somewhere I think I've got a couple more, but anyway, that's the most of the buildings that I've got. Oh, I found the little trailer, which I think is from the M3 half track, and that's another thing that could go along with the where's the wheels? The wheels are there. That could go along with the universal carrier as well. So I shall do a little bit of cutting and trimming and see which pieces I need to remake and how. Well, the side pieces that I did say, they do need a lot of thinning down. The correct scale thickness, it's 10mm armor, but if you take that down to 72nd or 76th, you know, that's about 0.2. I won't take it down to 0.2, but thinning it down would be beneficial, even if you taper thin it so that just the top view is a lot thinner. So not that I'm intending to actually just get stuck in and building that one at the moment, but I just want to get a little bit of a feel for how the detail can develop and how an engine might fit into there. Okay, happy modeling.